The wedding planning meeting was supposed to last an hour. 3 hours in, my sister Kavya still hadn't acknowledged my presence beyond pointing toward the kitchen when Mom asked about refreshments. Maya can handle the catering coordination, Kavya said without looking up from her Pinterest board, voice dripping with the casual dismissal I'd grown accustomed to over 29 years. She's good at organizational stuff. I refilled water glasses while Kavya held court at Mom's dining table, surrounded by wedding magazines, fabric samples, and enough venue brochures to wallpaper a small apartment. Her fiancé Rohan nodded along enthusiastically, occasionally offering suggestions that Kavya would consider for exactly 3 seconds before explaining why they wouldn't work. The Grandview Estate is absolutely perfect, Kavya gushed, sliding a glossy brochure toward Mom and Aunt Priya. Look at these gardens. The ballroom holds 300 guests, there's a private bridal suite, and the mountain views are incredible. It's exactly what I've always dreamed of. Mom studied the photos with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. It's gorgeous, Beta. But isn't it quite expensive? Worth every penny, Kavya declared. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. I refuse to compromise on my vision just to save money. I paused in my water refilling duties, recognizing the Grandview Estate immediately. The neoclassical mansion with its terraced gardens and panoramic mountain views was indeed stunning. I should know. I'd been its owner for the past 4 years. Maya, stop hovering and sit down, Mom chided gently. You're part of this family too. Kavya's expression suggested she found this statement debatable. Actually, Maya probably shouldn't be in the wedding party photos. You know how she photographs. I knew exactly how I photographed. Perfectly fine when I wasn't deliberately excluded from family events or relegated to behind-the-scenes roles. But arguing would only confirm their narrative that I was difficult. I could help with logistics instead, I offered, settling into the chair furthest from Kavya's planning command center. Perfect. Kavya brightened at the prospect of free labor. You can coordinate vendor deliveries, handle timeline management, maybe assist the caterers during setup. Keep things running smoothly behind the scenes. Rohan looked up from his phone where he'd been researching venue pricing. Babe, the Grandview Estate starts at $50,000 for Saturday events. Are we sure about this? Kavya's smile faltered for exactly 1 second before reassembling into determined optimism. It's our dream venue, Rohan. We'll make it work. Maybe we should look at some alternatives, Aunt Priya suggested diplomatically. There are other beautiful venues that might be more budget-friendly. No. Kavya's voice carried the steel that had gotten her through law school and into her current position at a mid-tier firm. I've been planning this wedding since I was 12. The Grandview Estate is perfect and I won't settle for less. She pulled up the venue's website on her laptop, narrating a virtual tour for the table. Look at the great hall with those crystal chandeliers. The ceremony can be in the rose garden, reception in the ballroom, cocktail hour on the terrace. It's like something from a fairy tale. I watched my family fall in love with a property I'd rescued from bankruptcy and transformed into one of the region's premier event destinations. They had no idea that the fairy tale they were admiring existed because I'd invested 2 years and several $1 million bringing it back to its historic grandeur. Have you contacted them yet? Mom asked. I'm calling Monday morning, Kavya said. The wedding coordinator there is supposed to be incredible. Someone named Sarah Chin who's planned events for celebrities and politicians. Sarah Chin was indeed incredible. I'd hired her personally after she'd coordinated events for 3 Fortune 500 companies and a governor's daughter. She reported directly to me through our property management company. What's your backup plan if they're booked? I asked innocently. Kavya's laugh held a note of superiority that made my teeth ache. Maya, people like me don't need backup plans. When you know what you want and you're willing to pay for quality, things work out. People like her. As opposed to people like me, presumably, those who settled for less because they couldn't recognize or afford excellence. Besides, Kavya continued, I've already checked their availability online. June 14th is open, which is perfect timing. 6 months to plan, right in peak wedding season. It's like it's meant to be. I nodded thoughtfully, mentally reviewing the booking calendar that I'd personally approved just last week. June 14th was indeed available, along with a note in the system about enhanced background checks for all bookings during peak season. My phone buzzed with an email from Sarah Chin. Venue inquiry for June 14, Kavya Patel. Shall I proceed with standard screening process? I typed back quickly, yes. Full financial verification required. The fairy tale was about to get interesting. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline autumn clarity that made me grateful for my corner office's floor-to-ceiling windows. From the 32nd floor of downtown Portland's newest high-rise, I could see the mountain range where the Grandview Estate sat nestled among old-growth forests and carefully preserved meadowland. My assistant knocked and entered with the morning's priority files. Sarah Chin called about the Grandview booking inquiry. She wanted to discuss the application before proceeding. Put her through. Sarah's voice carried its usual professional warmth. Good morning, Maya. I wanted to flag the Patel inquiry before moving forward. Standard financial verification shows some concerns. I pulled up Kavya's file on my computer while Sarah outlined the situation. My sister had submitted an application claiming a household income of $180,000, respectable for most venues, but insufficient for a $50,000 event at the Grandview Estate, especially when combined with existing credit obligations. She's listed her occupation as associate attorney and provided financial statements that don't quite support the booking she's requesting, Sarah continued diplomatically. Through my office's smart glass, I could see my reflection alongside the mountain views. The woman my family thought was struggling to establish herself in some computer job, while they celebrated Kavya's legal career as the family's greatest success story. What's the standard protocol for insufficient financial documentation? I asked, though I knew the answer perfectly. We require either full payment upfront, acceptable collateral, or a qualified cosigner with verified assets. Otherwise, we decline the booking and suggest more suitable alternatives. Alternatives that wouldn't include the rose garden ceremony or crystal chandelier reception that Kavya had spent Sunday evening describing in detail to anyone who'd listen. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Kavya's so excited about calling the venue today. Fingers crossed. Crossed fingers. Follow standard protocol, I told Sarah. If she can't meet our financial requirements, provide her with our preferred vendor list for venues in her actual budget range. Understood. Should I mention that the owner sometimes makes exceptions for special circumstances? I considered this carefully. The Grandview Estate operated as a business, not a charity, but I had occasionally waived deposits for non-profit events or local families facing genuine hardship. Kavya's situation was different. She could afford a beautiful wedding, just not the specific fantasy she'd decided she deserved. No exceptions this time. Standard business practices only. After ending the call, I returned to reviewing quarterly reports from my other properties. The hospitality portfolio I'd built over 8 years now included 12 venues across 3 states, from intimate boutique hotels to grand event estates. What had started as a single distressed property purchase had evolved into a comprehensive luxury hospitality company. At 2 p.m., my phone exploded with messages from the family group chat. Kavya, 2:17 p.m. This is ridiculous. The Grandview Estate is being completely unreasonable about their requirements. Mom, 2:22 p.m. What happened, beta? Kavya, 2:24 p.m. They want full payment upfront or some impossible financial verification. Like we're trying to scam them or something. Rohan, 2:31 p.m. Maybe we should look at other venues. There are plenty of beautiful places that don't require jumping through hoops. Kavya, 2:33 p.m. This is our dream venue. There has to be another way. I watched the conversation unfold while reviewing the afternoon's property management reports. By 3 p.m., Kavya had convinced herself that the Grandview Estate's policies were specifically designed to exclude regular people, in favor of trust fund babies and corporate events. Kavya, 3:45 p.m. I'm going to drive up there tomorrow and speak to someone in person. This whole situation is probably just a misunderstanding. Dad, 3:52 p.m. Good idea. Sometimes face-to-face conversation works better than phone calls. Aunt Priya, 4:15 p.m. Maya, you work with business systems, right? Do you know anything about event venue booking processes? I stared at the message for several minutes, considering my response. My family's assumption that I worked with business systems wasn't entirely wrong. I did work with business systems, primarily as the person who owned and operated them. Maya, 4:28 p.m. Most venues have standard financial verification processes. It's probably just business protocol. Kavya, 4:31 p.m. Maya, can you maybe help me figure out how to present our financial information more effectively? You understand corporate stuff. The irony was staggering. Kavya wanted my help navigating the financial requirements of my own venue, while remaining blissfully unaware that her corporate stuff expertise was about to meet the reality of actual corporate ownership. Maya, 4:45 p.m. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Tuesday's drive to the Grandview Estate would indeed clarify the situation, though probably not in the way Kavya expected. I spent the evening reviewing guest services protocols and ensuring my staff was prepared for what promised to be a very interesting site visit. Tuesday afternoon, I sat in the Grandview Estate's owner's suite, watching through privacy-tinted windows as Kavya's silver Lexus wound up the estate's tree-lined driveway. She'd arrived precisely on time for her 2 p.m. appointment, having spent the morning, according to her Instagram stories, getting her hair done and selecting an outfit that projected successful professional who deserves respect. Sarah Chin knocked and entered my office. Miss Patel has arrived. She's quite determined. I can imagine. How do you want to handle this? Standard consultation process. I'll review our policies, show her the facilities and explain the financial requirements clearly. If she becomes confrontational, I'll suggest she speak with ownership about making special arrangements. Through the window, I watched Kavya emerge from her car wearing her courtroom suit and carrying a leather portfolio that probably contained bank statements, reference letters, and whatever documentation she hoped would override business reality. Keep it professional, I said. If she asks to speak with ownership, let me know. The consultation lasted 47 minutes. I could see Sarah leading Kavya through the gardens, the ballroom and the terrace spaces that would indeed make a stunning wedding venue. Kavya's body language started confident, shifted to frustrated, and ended somewhere between desperate and furious. My office phone rang at exactly 2:47 p.m. Maya, Sarah's voice carried carefully controlled amusement. Ms. Patel would like to speak with the owner about making an exception to our financial policies. She's quite insistent that there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Send her up. I had 30 seconds to decide how to handle this moment. Stay behind my desk in full corporate authority mode, or meet her at the door like the sister she'd never recognized I'd become. Kavya knocked and entered without waiting for permission, her portfolio clutched defensively against her chest. I understand you're the owner here, and I need to explain that your staff has made some kind of mistake about. She stopped mid-sentence, staring at me with the expression of someone whose brain was refusing to process contradictory information. Maya? What are you doing here? I work here, I said simply, gesturing toward the chair across from my desk. Work here? But this is the Grandview Estate. This is a luxury venue. You can't possibly. I mean, what kind of work could you? She trailed off as her gaze traveled around my office. The mahogany desk, the architectural awards on the walls, the framed photos of celebrity events we'd hosted, the business degree from Stanford that she'd never bothered to ask about. I own it, Kavya. The words hung in the air like smoke from an expensive cigar. Kavya sank into the chair without invitation, her portfolio sliding from nerveless fingers. Own it? You can't own this place. This venue costs, the booking fees alone, $50,000 for Saturday events, I confirmed. $75,000 for peak season weekends. Plus catering minimums, service charges and damage deposits. Kavya's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Finally, how long? 4 years. I bought it when the previous owners defaulted on their loans. Spent 2 years renovating, 1 year building the business reputation, and the last year enjoying consistent profitability. The silence stretched until Kavya found her voice again. The computer job? Tech consulting firm. 47 employees. $12 million in annual revenue. Her perfect wedding venue belonged to the sister she'd relegated to kitchen duties. The conversation that followed was brief and professionally courteous. I explained that the Grandview Estate's policies applied equally to all potential clients, family relationships notwithstanding. Kavya could meet our financial requirements, provide acceptable collateral, or consider venues more aligned with her actual budget. She chose option 3, storming out while muttering about family loyalty and deliberately sabotaging her wedding. Within hours the family group chat exploded. Kavya, 4:23 p.m. Maya has been lying to us for years. She owns luxury venues and let me think I couldn't afford my dream wedding. Mom, 4:35 p.m. Maya, is this true? How could you not tell us? Dad, 4:41 p.m. We need to have a family meeting about this immediately. I responded once. The Grandview Estate operates as a business, not a family favor bank. Standard policies apply to all clients. The aftermath unfolded predictably. Kavya's wedding ended up at a perfectly lovely vineyard that actually suited her budget and guest count better than our grand ballroom would have. She spent 6 months explaining to relatives why her dream venue hadn't worked out, carefully omitting the ownership details. Mom struggled with cognitive dissonance between her successful daughter and her assumptions about my computer work. Dad researched my company obsessively, trying to understand how he'd missed signs of substantial financial success. The family dynamics shifted permanently. No more requests for Maya to handle logistics or work behind the scenes. No more casual dismissals of my career or capabilities. No more assumptions about who in the family had made it and who was still figuring things out. Some revelations change everything. This one just made the truth visible.